Great, good. Good afternoon. We are delighted to be joined by the Secretary General, Gordon Brown, who is our Special Envoy on Global Education, the Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Deepu Moni, the Minister of Education of Bangladesh, Anna Everstrom, the Permanent Representative of Sweden, and Wook Chung Managing Director of the Asian Development Bank. The Secretary General makes some remarks, then Mr. Brown, and then we'll release the Secretary General, and Mr. Brown will take some questions. Please.
Good afternoon, dear members of the media, and welcome. I want to, first of all, express my deep gratitude to my Special Envoy for Global Education, Gordon Brown. He has been the biggest advocate for the priority of education in the world in the last few years in a way that has really made it possible to move some mountains. And what we are doing today has had many obstacles for a lot of time. And without your determination and your strong credibility in the international community, this would never have been possible. Now, thank you for joining us at the Transforming Education Summit today and to draw attention to the critical issue of innovative financing for education. Our world is experimenting multiple crises, and governments, businesses, and families everywhere are feeling the financial strain. And since the COVID-19 pandemic began, 2/3 of countries have cut their education budgets. But education is the building block for peaceful, prosperous, stable societies. And we would need an increase in education budgets because so many children have been put out of school by the COVID, and particularly girls. Reducing investment virtually guarantees more serious crises further down the line. We need to get more, not less, more money into education systems. Now, wealthy countries can increase funding from domestic sources, but many developing countries are being hit by the cost of living crisis, and they urgently need support for education. And this is exactly the role of the International Finance Facility for Education. The facility is aimed at getting financing to lower middle-income countries, home to half the world's children and youth, and to the majority of the world's displaced and refugee children. The facility is not a new fund, but a mechanism to increase the resources available to multilateral banks to provide low-cost education finance. In time, we expect it to grow into a $10 billion facility to educate tomorrow's generation of young people. It will complement and work alongside the existing tools, like the Global Partnership for Education, that provide grants and other assistance. Deep congratulations to Gordon Brown and to all the countries and the institutions involved in getting this facility off the ground. And as I said, it was not easy. And I urge all international donors and philanthropic organizations to back it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I first of all thank the Secretary General for his leadership in every area, but particularly today I want to thank him for his leadership in education, calling the Transforming Education Summit, pressing us to do more on education, and I want to acknowledge both his work and the work of the Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, who has dealt with all the details of the summit and the planning for it that is to happen on Monday with many world leaders present. The International Finance Facility is the first finance facility for global education, and it's to deal with a crisis when 260 million school-aged children do not go to school, 400 million children at the age of 11 are not able to read or write and leave education for good, and 840 million children, young people, by the time they leave education in their teens, have no qualifications at the moment for the workplace of the future. The facility is based on guarantees that have been given by the rich countries to those countries who want to invest in education for the future. The fund will particularly help those countries where there are high out-of-school populations and where there are many refugee and displaced children. The facility has been possible only because of the support of the Swedish government, which is represented by the ambassador who is here with us today, by the United Kingdom government, and by the government of the Netherlands. And it has been made possible by the engagement of the Asian Development Bank, represented by the Managing Director General today, and by the African Development Bank, which is also going to be one of the main users of the funds. And over time, we expect the fund to grow from the 2 billion that it will be initially to 5 billion and then to 10 billion. And this means that today we're announcing the biggest ever single investment in global education that the world has seen. And we believe it can transform the prospects of millions of children. And we are thinking particularly of countries that will benefit from this. Pakistan, which is being devastated by floods. Ukraine, where the reconstruction of education will be essential, but cannot happen without resources provided by the international community. Africa facing drought and facing famine, but children who cannot go to school and need the school meals that schools can provide. And of course, millions of displaced and refugee children as a result of conflict. These will be the main beneficiaries of this facility. And that's why at the start of the Transforming Education Summit called by the Secretary General, we believe that we are giving new hope to the world's children that there can be a better future. And I want to present to the Secretary General the founding statutes of the new facility. This is lodged in Switzerland with the government of Switzerland, and just like many other international organizations, is going to be based in Switzerland and drawing funds from many countries to help make possible our dream that in this generation we can be the first generation where every child goes to school. And instead of developing only some of the potential of some of the children in some countries, we can achieve the Secretary General's dream to develop the potential of every child in every country. Thank you very much.
Statutes are here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
What a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Amina.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So
Thank you very much. We'll take a few questions.
I just say we have the Education Minister for Bangladesh here, who does a fantastic job, particularly getting girls into education, but dealing also with a high population of refugees. The President, the Managing Director of the Asian Development Bank, who has played a huge part in creating this facility, and the Ambassador from Sweden. And Sweden has a history of providing guarantees, which is a new way for many countries, but will become a more popular way of financing global international development. Any questions that we can help with?
Yes, thank you very much. Abdullah Massi from Al Arabi TV. Mr. Special Envoy, any thought about refugee students in zone conflict during this summit? Thank you very much.
Can you repeat that?
Refugees.
Yes.
Refugee students.
Yeah, we believe that the large numbers of refugee young people, but also displaced young people, can be major beneficiaries of this facility. And the reason is that many of the refugee and displaced young people are in lower middle income countries, like Lebanon and Jordan in the Middle East, but also, of course, in countries like Nigeria, in Africa. Bangladesh itself has had to take a large numbers of refugees from Myanmar. India itself takes refugees. Now, all these countries can benefit from this facility. And Elizabeth Steer, who's here, who's been one of the people who has led the way to get this fund created, will be able to give you more information about the direct means by which refugees can benefit.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caroline Malone, Feature Story News. Mr. Brown, when there's so many competing crises in the world, food, climate, energy, etc., how do you convince world leaders and others contributing to education that it's an important topic at this time?
That young people are becoming the biggest losers from the crisis that we're facing. And when you look around the world at the numbers of young people denied education through COVID, the numbers of young people displaced as a result of climate change, the numbers of young people who are hit because they're involved in countries which are involved in conflicts. And when I give you these figures, it is completely unacceptable that 70% of young people in developing countries are not able to read or write before they officially leave education, often at the age of 11 or 12. And that we have a situation where it used to be 50% in that position, but because of what's happened over COVID, it's now 70%. So 2/3 of children are not getting the education that they need to be able even to write or read in a way that we would accept was a good enough standard. So the crisis for the future is that if we do not educate young people, then we will not have the skills for the workplaces of the future. And I don't think there is any country that has become a high-income country without investing in education. You cannot be rich if you're education poor. And I think the message has got to go out to the rest of the world that investment in education and the support that we can give as an international community is absolutely vital for the future of the world.
Thank you. Yeah, one last question.
Hello.
Would you like
yes.
to say something?
I'm Shadi Abdel Sater from Ashar al-Awsat newspaper and Dag Hammarskjöld Fellowship.
Yeah.
I have a question about the education system in Lebanon. Do you have any plans to help that matter? We know that they are suffering from an economic collapse, and the schools there and teachers and even students are struggling. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand the problems that Lebanon's face. Lebanon, as you know, has taken in a large number of refugees from Syria, as well as having to fund its own education system. We worked on a project that was very successful for some time to create double-shift schools. So Lebanon pioneered a project where in the morning the Lebanese children went to the same school, that in the afternoon, as the young people from Lebanon left, the refugee and displaced children took over the classrooms of these schools. So we had double-shift schools, and that was a more cost-effective way of delivering education to larger numbers of people than ever before. But we accept that in the last year or two, Lebanon has faced even more economic difficulties, and of course, we would like to be in a position to give more support to Lebanon, because it is taking the responsibility for educating a large number of refugees. Do you want to say anything about that? No? Any question for the Minister of...
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. No, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry you didn't get